The town of Plainville. Established in 1721 at the geographical center of Connecticut.
Okay, looks like everybody's here and we're all set to get started. Today is Monday, May 3rd, 7 p.m., the regular meeting of the Plainville Town Council. I will ask you all to please stand for the pledge, and Councilperson Moranti, if you would lead us.
Sure. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for that. We'll get started.
Madam Chair,
Go right ahead.
motion to add a section under new business. I'd like to move number 4, the tax refund. I'd like to move number 3, tax refunds, to number 4, and add under number 3, establish public hearing for a proposed amendment to the open burning ordinance.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, we've got that taken care of. Thank you for doing that. So we do have a presentation this evening. Robert, I'll let you, do a little bit of an introduction. We're going to hear from our town clerk.
Yes, our town clerk, Cindy
Cindy.
Perini, has been working on a software program to make it easier for residents, town council members, staff to search for particular items that have occurred in, say, town council meetings. And so she's going to step forward, and we have a demonstration here on the monitor and kind of walk you through how it works and hopefully answer any questions you might have when she's done.
Great.
Good evening.
Hello, Cindy. Welcome.
Thank you. So, when I was first brought on as town clerk, I started to get familiar with the town's website. It was fabulous. And one thing I had to get acclimated with was the Code of Ordinances and the town charter. So I started to navigate, started to research, and I noticed that there were something that I could possibly do to add to help, as the town manager said, the counselors or internal, external customers, so be it. So we worked on a project. We added over 20 years worth of town council minutes that will show you how to navigate through. And what they became is, once we uploaded them, they became searchable. You can use keywords. There's tips and tricks. I can email that to you. And basically, it narrows down if you want to search something like, I'm going to show you how to search like dog park or firehouse, anything, any topic that's been covered over the town council in the last 20 years. Okay? So if you go to the town's website like we have, plainvillect.com, in the resource center column, there's a quick button that says Town Charter and Ordinances. So if you click that. Thank you. Then on the left-hand side, you'll see a column. It'll say your charter, your code, new laws, index, and then it says public documents. If you click on the minutes button, and then if you scroll down, you'll see everything, but I like to narrow it down. The top under the category, I'm going to pick town council. They're actually broken out by council and public hearing minutes. And it's the newest all the way down to the oldest, right there. So let's do just a quick search. If you go into this search right there, and we're just going to do dog park. It's going to tell you anytime it's in the charter, the code, or see where it says public documents on the left. It's quite a few references. So one of the ways, show you where it is within the body of the minutes, the date. If you use a trick like dog park, put a quote at the beginning and the end of it, it narrows it down for you to 19. There's 19 references. So there's 19 minutes or possibly public hearings where that topic has been discussed. You could click on it, pull it up, it's completely searchable. It's nice. Of course, your agendas are at the top. Just bring it down. And you got to be in there somewhere. Did you see it? Right there. Dog park. So it was mentioned in one of the public comments. And then I'm going to show you the trick of, let's try firehouse. This was a good one. Somebody needed minutes for something, came into our office, and a lot of our minutes are bound in books and are in the vault downstairs, so it's a little, awkward to leave the office, to have to go down. So to have it here, it's very easy. Your public hearings, your budget meetings, any attachments that are there are all included. Anything that was in the fully approved minutes are there. We can go back further, but I figured that this was a good starting point. After I had discussed it with Robert and shown him, he was like, yeah, let's show the council. So hope you guys like it. It's a great tool. My office uses it quite often. We may get questions from time to time, or someone's like, oh, which council meeting did this occur at? And obviously I wasn't here, so I'm like, let me look that up for you. So it's helpful. So I hope you guys like it. If you have any questions.
I thought maybe you'd pick a subject that they didn't pre-discuss. Is there a subject that you want them to throw in there
Anything you
and
guys wanna
see if you can, searchable?
that you can think of?
Any issues? What was that?
Meat tally. Animal shelters.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
Animal shelter.
So do that one. So it narrows it down for you. Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's awesome.
I think this is great.
That's a great help.
Is there any plan to go even,
We can. Basically, we just take the minutes, we scan them through our copier. Once we upload them, break them out by date. Takes about, I don't know, maybe 5 to 7 working days to do 6 months to a year. Once we upload them into the E-code here, which of the program we already have, they're already searchable.
I
We,
know Mr. Bossy and I sometimes, we were looking for in the 70s regarding minutes.
Yep.
A few weeks ago, so.
we definitely could. Yeah, it definitely could, if that's something you guys are interested in. Yeah, definitely.
That's great.
Okay.
That's a great tool. Thank you for doing that.
You're
I know
welcome.
sometimes I try to find things in the past, and of course I can't remember that many years back for whatever reason. But this makes things much easier. I think not just for council, but for the public and anybody else that may need to go back and do a little bit of research.
Sure.
Great. Anybody have any questions for Cindy? No?
Well,
Okay.
not a question, but I'd just like to, repeat that it's an excellent tool. And I think it's something that's going to be very worthwhile. I know sometimes I go back and I think I remember the exact meeting we discussed something, and then I realize
Or year?
not so much, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And so this will be very, very useful.
Anytime.
Thank you for doing it.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Very useful. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Robert. Okay. Okay, we do not have a public hearing scheduled this evening, so I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes of our previous meeting.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
motion to approve the minutes of April 19th, 2021, regular meeting.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Are there any changes or corrections to those minutes? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thanks, motion passes. Announcements and reports. Do we have any announcements or reports this evening? Okay, moving along. Appointments and resignations. We do have a few of those. So item number 1.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
motion to accept with regret the resignation of Robert Michalik from the Inland Wetlands Commission.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Robert, could we send him a letter of thanks for his service to the commission?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item number 2.
Madam Chair?
Go ahead.
Motion to ratify the town manager's reappointments of Lisa Lozier, Linnell Noble, and Randall Paz to the Conservation Commission for terms ending January 15th, 2025.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Are there any other appointments tonight that we did not have on our agenda that we wish to make? Okay. Thanks for that. Board of Ed would be next meeting. Town attorney, or town attorney is here. Do you have a report for us tonight?
No, Madam Chair, thank you.
Okay. Good to see you. All right. We are now at the report of the town manager. Mr. Lee, you have a number of items, so we'll let you get going here.
Yes, the first item I have is the Connecticut Main Street Center. The fiscal year 22 budget includes monies to join the Connecticut Main Street Center. During the budget discussions, town council members had several questions regarding the benefits of joining the Connecticut Main Street Center. Patrick McMahon, the Chief Executive Officer of the center, is here this evening to give a brief PowerPoint presentation of the organization and to answer any questions from the town council members. So with your permission, I'd like to ask Patrick to step forward.
Great. Welcome.
Madam Chairwoman, members of the Town Council, it's a pleasure to be here this evening. I am Patrick McMahon. I'm the CEO of the Connecticut Main Street Center. We are a statewide nonprofit organization with the purpose of driving investment and activity to downtowns and neighborhood commercial districts all across the state. We work with communities large and small, ranging from the city of Hartford, and the Upper Albany Main Street portion of it, Farmington Avenue, to the inner-ring suburbs, to communities like Coventry that have a village center. Next slide, please. So we are the downtown resource center for the state of Connecticut. We work very closely with the state agencies, DECD, and others. We are here to provide information and resources to you as the municipality. We often work with the municipal CEOs, the local economic developer, the town planners. In the time that I've been the CEO, which is closing in on 4 years, I've also made a point to really reach out to the private sector. So we have a great network of architects, engineers, developers, contractors, financial resources, the banks, anywhere that small businesses are going to be able to tap into dollars. So we see this as a real public and private initiative. We do education and training. We do research and access to information. We have customized a la carte services that I'll mention a little later. And we try to get the news out. Connecticut is very, very fortunate to have all the beautiful downtowns and village centers that we have. And we need to market that for day trippers in the state as well as to draw people from outside of the state. Next slide. We espouse a comprehensive approach to downtown revitalization. It's not just one thing. You have to be essentially everything that's on the slide, from place, historic preservation, planning, the arts, economic vitality, which is jobs and housing, that type of thing. Downtown friendly regulations and zoning is certainly important. Inclusiveness, making it so that your downtown is open and friendly to everybody, regardless of what their background is. Sustainability is a big issue now. We're trying to have green spaces, places for healthy living. The fact that you have the rail trail, I think, is really great for the community. I'm a bike rider. I've ridden my bike from Simsbury all the way down to Yale. And it'll be wonderful when it's all connected up. And that kind of segues into connectivity. Basically, the transit, the walkability, bikeability, trying to wrap all of these different things together is really important. Next slide. It's based on a 4-point approach that's been in existence for 40 years. It was started by the National Trust for Historic Preservation. And it really looks at organization. Someone locally needs to be driving the bus for downtown. Who's the direct contact? Whether that's a town staff member, the Chamber of Commerce, a nonprofit organization. Someone has to be cognizant on a daily basis of what's going on downtown. It's really important. Design is things like, do you have wayfinding signage to your public parking? Are the sidewalks wide enough? Do you have design guidelines for any new construction that may occur in your downtown? So design's a critical feature. Promotion, having events downtown is really, really important, and having your small businesses have sales during the course of the year to attract new commerce downtown. And then economic vitality, that's knowing who your market is. Do you have the data that you need, the traffic counts? Do you know who you can attract to your downtown? And then also when you have a property that might be vacant or underutilized, what are some of the tools that could be brought to bear to make it so that you can bring those properties back onto the tax roll? We've reached out and had conversations about the White Oak property, for instance, looking at the RFP that went out, just giving a couple of ideas to Cal when that was in the works. Next slide. We're very much focused on the intersection of economic development and historic preservation. That's what we were founded on. So having older historic buildings is actually, it's an attraction to our downtowns. It really adds a lot of the character. Next slide. As I mentioned, downtowns really need to be managed in some fashion. And different communities do different approaches. I was a local economic developer in Suffield for 15 years. And so we had a design review board that kind of dealt with the design stuff. We had a chamber of commerce that did some of the events downtown, and we worked with other organizations to do events downtown. Our economic development commission essentially did the economic vitality. So there's different ways to approach it. Some communities choose to create a nonprofit organization just to be focused on the downtown. We can have those conversations as to what might be in the best interest of your community going forward. Next slide. I won't go into this, how revitalization works. There's a whole process. What I will say is that we recently did a webinar on creating your downtown action plan, and we put all of our resources online, and I would highly recommend you check out that resource. Next slide. So what are the benefits of membership? As Town Manager Lee mentioned, it is in the budget to join our organization. We have 80 plus members across the state of Connecticut. What this provides you is access to our educational programming, our webinars. When it's not pandemic time, we will have in-person workshops and trainings along the way. Annual visits to the downtown and meeting up directly with town staff. And again, we are a phone call away. And Cal has been great in attending our different workshops and giving me a call when he thinks that he's got an issue he wants to address. Next slide. All of our webinars are on our website, ctmainstreet.org. We do have a couple of ones coming up. Next Tuesday is actually on vacant properties. And we have someone who's from Goldman and York, a real estate research firm out of East Hartford, that's going to be presenting on why are properties sometimes vacant and what are some of the tools that you can utilize to bring them back online. Next slide. We did a whole video series that can be shared with your businesses in this day and age, again, with the pandemic. Prior to the pandemic, less than 30% of the small businesses actually had an online presence. Isn't that amazing? And it's really critical now that a business have both the brick and mortar and the online presence. And so there's a whole video series about that. Next slide. This was a recent one that we did on branding Wyndham. We had a planning firm called FHI who presented along with the economic developer in Wyndham. I would highly recommend it. The takeaways from that 1 hour session were certainly applicable to towns all across the state. Next slide. As I mentioned, our webinar next Tuesday to take advantage of that, before and after for vacant properties. Next slide. Resources, expertise. We have a whole group of professional affiliates, so architects, engineers, marketing firms who work with us. And so if a question comes up that we're not able to answer, we're able to go to them. Next slide. Customized solutions. We've helped communities establish municipal tax increment financing districts, and that's a whole subject for another day. But if you ever do want me to go through and do a TIF 101 with anybody in the town, I'm happy to do that. Next slide. We are your voice for your downtowns at the state capitol and in front of state agencies. There is now a working group, a Main Street working group of the General Assembly that meet on a regular basis, and their goals are to educate each other on issues relative to downtowns and neighborhood commercial districts, as well as to come up with policy solutions that some of the communities are faced with. Representative Pettit's come to several of those meetings, and I know we've reached out to your state senator as well. Next slide. We've recently entered into a strategic partnership with the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities. It's absolutely critical for us that we have access to the town managers and the mayors of each of the communities. Local leadership drives the bus often on any project downtown. You have to have buy-in from the top to get things done. So we're really excited about that. Some of the things that we're doing with CCM is we are providing some additional webinars that any town staff can take advantage of. And if anybody locally is going through that certified municipal official program through CCM, our stuff would apply to that. FHI Studios on the bottom there, the important point there is almost all of our webinars or any of our educational programming, we cater it and make sure that it will qualify for continuing education credits for your town planner. So your town planner can access our webinars and sign off each time with an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours of continuing ed. So that's really critical. Next slide. I would be remiss not to just mention that we were actually started by CLMP 25 years ago. Then they rolled us off as a nonprofit, but they've been supporting us ever since. DECD supports us, so we're very connected with DECD. I was on a call today with the commissioner as well as the deputy commissioner, their small business staff. So we try to bring those resources to you. And we also work very closely with the State Historic Preservation Office. Next slide. So finally, that's our website, ctmainstreet.org. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Very interesting. Does anybody have any questions or comments regarding the presentation or any thoughts about how Plainville could benefit? I made a couple of notes, but I'll ask the council first to go ahead and if they have any thoughts or questions for you. They always make me go first. Always.
Go first.
Okay. So, regard to Plainville's downtown, several years ago, we established a downtown beautification commission. And at that time, our state representative, Betty Bocas, had obtained several dollars to improve the downtown general area. Mm-hmm. And the commission was in pretty much involved in, the liaison between her office, between economic development, the state, where all the monies came through. And there were improvements done to the downtown area. We have new street lights, we have sidewalk improvements, crosswalk improvements, things of that nature. So some of those things for Plainville have been done. So I wonder, again, in terms of Plainville's downtown, which I guess I would like to know, first of all, what would be considered the downtown area geographically? And the other question I have is, how does the town work with the landlords in terms of having them buy into some of this improvement and funding for doing some of these things, and where do the dollars come from, and how do some of these things get paid? So I'm sure you've been asked that before, but
Yes, yes.
there you go.
So the downtown, the definition of it, I'm assuming that with the zoning and your plan of conservation and development kind of outlines what's considered the downtown. But even beyond what's in a plan of conservation and development is what do the residents think is their downtown? And that's kind of how you should try to frame it. And do people kind of recognize it as the downtown and want to be there on a weekly basis to go and patronize the businesses. The funding, there's lots of different funding sources, and that's one of the benefits of an organization like Connecticut Main Street Centers. We hear about them, and then our goal is to get it out to you in a timely fashion so that you could potentially take advantage of these opportunities. And I have actually a whole presentation that I did for the Main Street Working Group of the legislature, all on the various funding sources for downtown revitalization, and I'd be happy to share that
That
with
would
you.
probably be helpful at
Yep.
some point. In addition to some of the things that our downtown commission did, the town also put LED lighting throughout the town, which was, something that was a long-term project, but we eventually got that done. So some of the improvements have been done, but to specifically look at the downtown area, I'm still a little, I know where we think the downtown is, and we've had some for the plan of development. I think our economic development folks and our planning folks have sort of more delineated. Is that, Robert? Is that correct? They've kind of described what our downtown is?
Yes, they have.
Okay.
Yes, they have. And, a lot of it is Pier Street to, Huff Avenue, Huff Street, and then, whether it goes all the way down to Broad Street as well. So that kind of square area is considered, the downtown. We've used Pier Street and Neal Court, where we have kind of the bump outs as the traditional, kind of entranceway to the community, but the firehouse is considered in the downtown as well. So, that's roughly it. And again, it really depends on whether you're talking about living in the downtown or whether you're just talking about, the commercial area of the downtown. But it's roughly that area, that area that I've described.
Okay.
Folks will generally be, they'd be happy to walk a quarter to a half a mile. So kind of a radius of a quarter mile around what your core commercial district would be. Those residential areas, they're the ones who would likely walk to downtown. Everybody else would have to drive and park in one of your municipal lots.
So, and what are your thoughts in terms of importance to parking in the downtown area to have people come there and spend some time in one of the shops or restaurant or something? How important is parking in terms of creating more activity?
Parking is one of those misunderstood concepts, to be honest with you. There's usually a lot more parking downtown than most people realize. If you did a study of all of the parking spaces that are either on street or in municipal lots or behind the different buildings, there's probably a significant amount of parking in the downtown. It's really finding ways to better sign the access to that, working with the private sector owners to say, can we have some potential shared parking arrangements to make this happen? It's going to sound kind of strange, but having a parking issue is generally a good thing. That means people are trying to get to your downtown.
Okay. Okay, those are my questions. Does anybody have anything else that you'd like to ask about or any other information you'd like to see that might help us?
Madam Chair?
Go right ahead.
Patrick, and I'm going to speak into my microphone, and then I'll turn it around. I assume that some of the services that you offer are covered by our basic membership in the Main Street Center.
Yes.
But then are there also other more custom-based services which are fee-based? And is there a set menu of those, or is that all negotiated with a particular member?
Yeah, at the current time, we're mostly just doing the tax increment financing. We are coming up with a separate sort of fee for service for different deeper dives. That would be a negotiation between us and the community as to what the scope of that work would be. But everything outside of a deep dive, I mean, a phone call for any kind of just we want to do a facade and program. There are two towns that already have a program guidelines. We're trying to do a trail extension. Is there something out there for funding for that? Anything related to that is just a quick phone call to us, and we'll try to get you the information as soon as possible.
Okay, now that's great. So in other words, unless it's really a custom, in-depth sort of study or something like that,
That's
it's covered
correct.
by the membership. Great, thank you
Yes.
very much.
All set, Rosemary?
Yes, I am.
Okay, anybody else? Robert?
Patrick, you mentioned the benefits or the fact that Plainville was bringing a trail down through the center of Plainville. There are other communities in the state, Collinsville comes to mind, Simsbury, Southington, all have seen positive impact to their downtown area by having it. Can you speak a little bit more about some of those positive impacts that you've seen as well and how that might help us here in Plainville?
There's actually a trail census that's done at the state level. And for instance, there's a trail that goes through Derby and Ansonia. And the amount of visitors to that location is absolutely tremendous. If any of you have been to Collinsville on a weekend after riding your bike to LaSalle Market and seeing all the activity that's happening there, it's wonderful. And one of the really interesting things is that bike riders, when they're going to go like that on a 15 or 20 mile bike ride, maybe 10, depending on the family structure, you're going to spend money. You're going to spend $20, $30, $40 on a meal during that ride. And so that's money that's going directly to your small businesses.
And Patrick, isn't it true that not only people out of town utilize these trails to get to the downtown, but also the people who live in that community as well, rather than have to hop in a car, find a parking space, find it very much convenient to either walk by using the trail, because generally they have nice amenities on them to begin with, or they're in areas that are somewhat attractive, as well as, or hop on a bike and come downtown as well. Not just people who are passing through, but people who live in the community as well.
Oh, no doubt about that. Bike riding right now and walking. This pandemic has really let people know, we need to enjoy the outdoors and take advantage of those outdoor recreational opportunities that are out there, our parks and these trails. So, definitely local residents would definitely avail themselves of this. I will mention that you're soon going to be reviewing the uses of the American Rescue Plan dollars that come to your community. Mm-hmm. I'm actually on a committee appointed by CCM with a bunch of others to help communities kind of look through what are some of their ideas and priorities for that funding so that you can really leverage it and make it so that it's a truly transformational item. And when I was coming down here, I don't know what the current plans are, but, finishing that trail would be a pretty, a stupendous use of those, at least a portion of those funds to get things going locally here.
Okay. All right. Any other comments or questions? All right. So on behalf of the council, thank you so very much for coming tonight. We did have a discussion regarding this during our budget deliberations. We had sort of an overview, but certainly more helpful to have you come and give us a lot more detail as to what's available and to meet you, of course.
Yes. Thank you so much for the invitation, and
Thank
we look
you
forward
again.
to working with you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, Robert.
Patrick, you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but if you want to take off, nobody gets insulted either. Thank you. Next item I have is the Norton Park pool discussion for the summer of 2021. Recreation Director Courtney Hewitt, and I see her partner in Ben Delana, are here this evening to discuss the plans for the Norton Park pool, which is scheduled to open on June 12th. Courtney has suggested two options for residents to utilize the pool based on current COVID-19 restrictions that state that employees should, and this is in quotes, limit the total number of patrons in the pool area and pool to the number of people/households that can safely fit on the pool deck area while maintaining the 6 feet distance guidelines, including 3 foot wide walking paths, unquote. With the size of the pool decks at Norton Park, this would limit the number of pool visitors to a maximum of 50 at any time, and I guess that's the way we've measured it last year as well. She is suggesting two ideas on how to limit the capacity to best serve the Plainville residents. One is to limit pool season passes to 400 on a first-come, first-served basis, which is basically what was done last year. The second idea is to sell tickets on a daily basis at $2 each on a first-come, first-served basis until capacity is reached. Courtney is seeking town council feedback on each of these suggestions, and I know we also included in your meeting information package some of the pool guidelines that have been issued by the State Health Department. So, Courtney, I don't know if you want to add a few words to what I've just described, and perhaps the council could either ask some questions or give you some of their feedback.
Yes. Thank you guys for having me tonight. We are planning on running the pool similar to how we did last year, where we're going to have 2 different waves for people to come and visit. So we're going to do our first shift from 12 to 3. Then we're going to close for an hour and completely sanitize the entire area. And then we'll open back up. This will allow us to maximize, letting more people in throughout one day's use while still maintaining the safety standards that we want to make sure are in place so we can keep everyone safe.
Okay, go ahead,
I
Robert.
wasn't sure if you wanted to talk a little bit about the two options. I know I briefly summarized them, but I don't know if you have some pros and cons of them, or just some of your thoughts. I provided the council with your memo, but I don't know if you just want to expound on it just a little bit.
Yeah, so last year we did the 400 pool passes, and overall, I do think it went very smoothly. However, we did come to some issues with people reserving a spot and then not showing up.
Yep.
And we weren't sure if, maybe they're going to show up an hour into open swim and then, or they won't. So we weren't sure. We would have a wait list, but by the time we'd call people like, hey, we have a slot, sometimes people wouldn't be able to make it. Overall, people were happy to have the pool open. It was a nice service for the community. We're just kind of looking to see if there is another option. So the second option was the daily drop-in passes. We did bring down the rate that we're suggesting, which is $2 per, shift, actually. So that's normally like a $5 per day. So we did drop it down because the time would be shortened for the maximum amount of time they can stay in the facility. This would allow, Plainville has 17,000 people in it. This would allow us to serve the entire community if they wanted to, versus only having 400 residents come and do that. However, it would be more costly to somebody that did want to go daily or even 3 times a week, like how we had it last year. So that was kind of what we wanted your feedback on. Do we try doing the pool passes again, which I do think did work well, especially for our first year doing it, or do we open it up to the community as a whole?
Courtney, how many, prior to COVID, how many could we allow in the pool? What was the limit? Did you have an upper limit as to the number of people? Did we keep track of those numbers?
I believe it was either 200 or 250 people were allowed in the facility at a time.
Okay. And so if we're staying with the same 50, it's 50 at any given session, correct? Yes. So how do you manage the campers that come in through the day camp? They also come over to the pool. They would be occupying spots. They would count as part of the 50. Is that right?
That would be right. However, even last year, what we did was we have the campers have their own separate time. So
Oh.
they only come 2 times a week now, but they come in at off hours. The lifeguards just come in and open up. We sanitize in between shifts again. So they aren't going to be included within this number.
Okay. So there's no chance, Shane, this is going to change, right? By the time summer shows up, that these rules are in place.
I think probably the biggest thing is there might be some, it might come down as recommendations rather than guidelines. But either way, we should follow them by BPH, and I wouldn't expect any wholesale changes between now and late June,
Okay.
early July. But if there are, I'll certainly, I mean, we talked to Courtney, as any kind of updates come out, and I'll let her know, and we can adjust as we need to.
Okay. Yeah, so regarding last year's program, I bought my pass, and then trying to get a date became prohibitive because people that knew how this worked would call right away and get their spaces reserved. So oftentimes there was no availability. And so that to me was a little bit, I don't suspect I'm the only one that happened to, but it became a little bit of a disappointment, but we were in a different time last year, so I understand that. I think that doing the $2 per person is probably makes more sense at this point in time. If folks can come and they don't mind paying per visit, then I think that's fine. That would be my suggestion. And this is still just for Plainville residents, correct? You cannot bring in a family member that resided outside of Plainville. Is that right?
That is correct. We are planning on doing that. However, if the council would like to open that up, we would be happy to take a look at that as well. But at this time, we were looking at doing Plainville residents.
And if outside residents came they would have to be with a Plainville resident in order to do this. Would they be charged $2, or would you consider charging them an upcharge, like an additional, maybe they would be at a $5 rate or something like that?
If we did go down that path, I would definitely recommend charging, even $4. Just because, this pool is taxpayer funded, where they are not taxpayers, I do think it would be a good idea to, upcharge it a little bit. It really is one of the most beautiful facilities I've ever seen. I grew up lifeguarding and in pools and everything, and I love this facility.
Yep.
So it's worth $4 for sure.
And even at that, it's a discount compared to some other towns that have pools that let non-residents. It's much more expensive than that, from my experience. Well, anyway, I would really go for recommendation 2. I'll ask the rest of the council members what they feel about it. Robert, do you want to add anything to it at this time?
Yeah, Courtney, did you envision if they went the daily, pass, that, the first 50 people would get in, but if the 51st person showed up and the 52nd person showed up, and they waited in line, if 2 people left, then they'd be able to get in.
Oh, absolutely.
For the rest of that session. So if you're maybe the next one, or, you're talking about 3-hour sessions. So I don't know how many people stay for all 3 hours, or, somebody comes in and they stay for an hour. One of the younger children starts to cry, so mom takes the whole family home, and that opens up 5 slots all of a sudden. That might allow for a little bit more flexibility for sure. Again, there's pros and cons to both methods, and I think that certainly the daily one allows for you. I think have a more of an opportunity to have 50 people use it as opposed to 50 people reserve and then 10 don't, just reserved it because they wanted every Monday. They wanted to save, so many slots. And if it was a bad weather day, then if you reserved it that day, you wouldn't be like, oh, I didn't get a chance to go to the pool, kind of thing. So I don't know. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of variables with this whole process. And I think, I don't know how you would do this. Would you just say at noon, the first 50 people in line get in, or would they have to call? I'm not sure how you would manage that. You could have 100 people show up, and I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, judging by, what I've seen from pools in the past and everything. Granted, I haven't seen this limited capacity. 50 people aren't going to show up right at noon. Again, this could change with this whole situation, but I would imagine, you know, putting markers out on the ground if we were going to have a line forming before 12. And then, yes, only allowing the first 50 people in. And if, you know, like Robert said, if the 51st and 52nd people want to wait until somebody leaves, then they can wait for as long as they want.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
I agree. I like option 2 for a couple of reasons. One, I think if I was one of the 400 that bought a pool pass, I would feel entitled to be able to use the pool.
Yeah.
You know, I think that creates problems.
Yeah.
So I like the first 50 and what you're proposing. I like Plainville residents only because it's such a limited number. Also, I think it gives us great flexibility that if the guideline's changing, we can fit 75 or we can fit 100. Now we don't have to open up and start selling more pool passes. We can make that adjustment on the fly pretty easily. So I like option 2, but I like it for Plainville residents only.
Madam Chair?
Mr. Underwood?
I like option 2 also, but I have a question for you. There's 2 segments here. One at 12 to 3, then you have an hour break, and then it's 3 to 7, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Would it
4 to
be-
7, excuse me.
4 to 7.
Yes.
Would it behoove us to make a third one, opening the pool a little bit earlier than noontime, maybe at 10 o'clock, have it at 10 to 12, 12 to 3, and a 4 to 7? And the reason I say that, I'm not sure how many people are going to be turned away, but I envision an awful lot of people using it this year. People have been in their houses for a year now. They want to get out. Summer's coming, and I anticipate nothing but an onslaught to the pool. And it's my suggestion that maybe we go with 3 instead of 2, opening it up at 10 in the morning to 12, making it a 2-hour in the morning, and taking some time to clean it up, and I go back again. Maybe cutting down the other 2, instead of 3 hours, 2.5 hours, so you get that extra hour to close it and clean it.
So we can definitely do that. However, we are hoping on offering swim lessons this summer as well. You know, depending on the guidelines and everything, if everything is continuing the way it seems to be going, we are planning to offer swim lessons, and we were planning to do that Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays in that time slot. And then on the weekends, we were even thinking about doing like private pool rentals in the morning. Like you could rent it out for a birthday party, almost like we do with the pavilions out at the park. So you could have 25 of your friends and family come for $200, and you can have the pool to yourself for, you know, an hour and a half for your child's birthday on Saturday and Sunday mornings is kind of how we were envisioning the summer looking.
I don't disagree with you, but it's my feeling that you're going to have a lot more people wanting to use that pool. And I just can't see it turning people away in large numbers because you can't accommodate them all. You're taking care of the smaller groups where I'm looking at the big picture of people who want to use something and being able to get in there and not saying, well, I was one of the people turned away at noontime and I got turned away again at 3 o'clock. Just giving the people another time to go and use the pool.
I definitely see what you're saying, and I'm, you know, listening to it, and I'm totally willing to maybe do something on Saturday and Sunday. However, I do think swim lessons are a life skill. If we are able to offer them this summer, if we can't, then I'm absolutely happy to doing a third session. But I really do think swim lessons are a life skill. So many children drown each year because they don't know how to swim and just because of accidents. So I really do think it would be good to offer swim lessons this summer.
Just a suggestion. Offer the swimming lessons at the Plainville High School pool for the kids and open the pool up 3 times, 3 times a month to encompass the majority of people who want to use it. That's my feeling.
At the Plainville High School? We used to offer swim lessons there, but unfortunately we weren't able to this year because of the guidelines. They're just kind of loosening now. You know, we're hoping to offer them in the fall, but you know, who knows what it's going to look like. We thought we were going to be back to normal by now this year.
Well, Courtney, let's have some discussions with the principal about whether it's possible to have swim lessons when school's out over the summertime. And the other thing is, if we can, and we end up with swim lessons on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays in the morning, there's no reason, I don't believe there's a good reason why we couldn't on Tuesdays and Thursday mornings open that up for people on first come, first serve. So that's kind of a
when we-
compromise to a certain degree.
I'm sorry, that's when we do our summer camp. That's the 2 days that they're allowed into the facility early.
Okay.
And that is kind of a draw for the summer camp.
Okay. But let's talk to the principal and see if we can
Absolutely.
make some adjustments. And do we need a full hour to clean up? I mean, could we do that in a half hour?
We could probably cut it down a little bit.
Because if somebody came, and if they had to wait an hour, that'd be one thing. If they had to wait a half hour, that might, in between sessions, that might be certainly a lot easier.
Yeah, we can definitely look at that.
And I don't know if we can put sprinklers out on the lawn in front of the pool where kids can at least run around for a little while. I don't know. Might catch the people walking by, but hey, every little bit helps.
They may thank you.
Madam Chair.
Go right
If I
ahead.
can just ask a couple questions.
Of course.
If that's okay. Just on average, and round it off, but how many no-shows would you get typically last summer, did you see per session?
It really, every once in a while a session would be completely filled. I will say that was on the rarer side.
Okay.
I would say on average probably 6 or 7, but then too, if people left, like Robert was
Yep,
saying,
It would-
after an hour and a half, the pool was looking a little sparse at time, and people definitely noticed.
Yep,
And at that point, we would again offer to call people and see, oh, you're on the wait list. Would you want to come in? And then
Most of the time they probably
no,
didn't.
sometimes they
didn't,
would, but
sometimes. And the second question, with the two options, administratively, which one would be easier? I'm sure it won't be you down at the pool necessarily, but, for the staff down there, which one would be easier for them to monitor and just administer whatever plan we went forward with?
I have to say, office-wise, it would be plan 2 would be a lot easier on us.
Yes.
Ben and I were the people taking phone calls last year for the reservations. That took a good chunk of our time up. And at the pool, we would just have the attendant doing a head count, and they would say, okay, these 2 people left. You guys can come back on. Next 2 people in line can come in.
Yep.
It would be an easy adjustment.
And just a last question, if you have people at the first session, for example, is that all they can do per day is one session? If they left at 3, would a whole new group of 50 be allowed in at 4, or would you allow people to come back at 4? Have you even thought about that yet?
The way I kind of thought about it is if people wanted to pay another $2
Yep.
to get in and they waited in line, I don't see why we wouldn't allow that.
Okay. All right. And just, listening, obviously option 2 sounds like I think it would be the better option for everybody involved. And, I would think we'd want to lean towards Plainville residents only at this point. If there was such a, if we had quite a few people already being shut out, I don't think we want to expand the number of people that could come to the pool. I would think we'd want to limit that at least this year to Plainville residents, but that's my 2 cents.
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
I initially, when I read this, I was thinking that the 400 passes was the best idea because I had concerns that people with a lot of kids coming wouldn't be able to pay the $2 per person. It could be prohibitive for a lot of families. But hearing all the comments made tonight, I really agree that maybe the number 2 is the best way to go. I do think that maybe someone coming with their grandkids, if the grandkids weren't Plainville residents, but the grandmother or grandfather was a Plainville resident, maybe they would be able to bring their grandkids there.
Yeah, if you guys, I'm willing to work with you guys to make this however you want. Again, you guys are the voice of Plainville. There's a reason why you've been voted on this board. So if you guys come to the consensus that you would want to do, grandmother or caretaker and children,
Right.
And that's something that you guys would want to pursue, I'm happy to make that adjustment and that policy change if that's what you guys are looking for and if that's what you guys feel like is a necessity in the community.
Okay.
Madam
Thank you,
Chair?
Courtney.
Mr. Underwood.
I agree with Deb Tompkins. I think that as a grandparent, my grandchildren live outside of Plainville. I think if I had them for the day, I wanted to do something with them, take them for a swim. I mean, even if you charged a little more money for that, I think that should be something we should open.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm fine with the second option, but I just had a question, just curious, in a normal year, which hopefully we'll have at some point, what was the number of passes that we would typically sell?
Yeah, so in 2019, we sold a total of 890 passes. But we also sold 3,241 guest passes. So those are like the daily drop-in that is mentioned in choice 2. So unfortunately, we aren't going to be able to fulfill that capacity as we have in the past. But that's what we are looking at.
Yes, yeah, I was just interested in seeing, how far off was 400 from what we normally did. So actually, it was less than half.
Yes.
What we normally did. Okay, thank you.
All set? Mr. Rocco?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jacob.
I like option 2. I like option 2 for two main reasons. One, I feel like, given the circumstances, it is the best way to make sure that we get as much use out of the pool as possible, and as many members of our community, who I'm sure are dying to go out this summer after the year we've had, get use out of it. And also, I think it's easier for down the road if we start feeling that it's safer to start, allowing 60% capacity, 75%, so on. I think it's the easiest way to adjust down the road. And I will also point out that I do agree with Deb and Dave, and if a Plainville resident shows up and she's got 6 kids with her that are from all different towns, they should all be allowed to use the pool. That's my 2 cents on it.
Robert, did you have a comment?
I was just going to slightly disagree with Jacob in that I would put a limit on how many you can bring in that live out of town.
A limit per resident?
Yes.
So if one resident
Or per
came, they
household.
could maybe bring 4 people or whatever
per
you
household.
decide the number is?
Yeah, six would be a lot.
And I have to
I could
say,
probably
Saying you
fill
shouldn't.
that
I'm
up.
just in my mind it would be a lot. I don't use the pool. I don't go to the pool, so I don't take up any slots. I would live closest to the pool, of course, but
I will say too, as a former lifeguard, one adult with 6 kids is not the key to success. We'll just say with that. So I do like the idea of, if we are going to go down that path, of limiting it to, maybe like 2 children per an adult or something like that. So, a grandmother and grandfather could bring in 4 of their grandchildren. Something along that line.
Okay.
That would just be my recommendation if we're going down that path.
Okay. So we have a few ideas here, Robert and Courtney, to follow up with before we finally implement. I am interested in Councilman Underwood's thought of if we could add another session. I don't know how complicated that would be or how difficult that would be, but if we could, I think that would certainly maximize some of that effort, just to try and get some folks into the pool that have missed it desperately. That our pool really is, exceptional, and there are other towns that have pools, and I've been to them, but really this is a wonderful place for young children, and for the children that can swim, and then for the adults in the lap lanes. It's just wonderful, and I would hope that we could try and utilize that a little bit more this year. I understand the restrictions in terms of how many at a time, but expanding, and if we could put one more session in somehow, that would really be great, I think.
yeah, we'll work hard on that
Okay.
over the next couple of days to try to straighten that out. I believe that the high school pool, we'll talk to
Sure.
the principal and the superintendent. I'm sure they'll be as cooperative as they can be, and and maybe shorten the between the sessions.
Yep.
Make it a half hour, maybe perhaps an hour, which gets us stretches a little bit more time, and we have to decide how we're going to do this relatively quickly because we're open up on the 12th. We want people to know in advance so that they can plan for it. People are already asking, are you going to charge seasons pass? Are you going to sell seasons passes? And I think we should get out there and and basically say no, we're not going to sell seasons passes. It'll be more on a daily basis, but we'll be providing more information shortly. So we'll try to finalize it as much as possible, summarize it to the council, and again, I wish we could be open 24 hours a day.
Of course.
So.
Well, and Robert and Courtney, we have enough staffing, for example, if we did add another session on, or if we ended up at the high school pool, we have enough staff to cover that extra time.
I'd have to defer to.
We'll have to look at that. Is that something you'd have to look at?
So judging by what we have, it would be stretching our staff kind of thin to do, every day at Burner Pool and then do some lessons 3 times a week at the high school. It would be stretching our staff a little thin. Could we do it? Yes. But, maybe, take off a day or two, like a Monday and Wednesday or something. We wouldn't offer it in the morning. Or a Monday even would help a lot.
Okay. Well, if you would be so kind as to do that and come back with a little bit different plan, that would be
Absolutely.
great. I think we're all in agreement about the option 2.
Okay.
$2 per visit per person. And if you wanted to increase something for an out-of-town grandchild or something of that nature, if you could include that also, that would be good. That'd be great. Thank you very much. We appreciate that.
No, thank you guys very much. I really appreciate the feedback.
Of course.
Courtney.
Thanks. Thanks, Robert.
Okay. Next item I have is police body camera discussion. Last summer, the police reform bill was signed into law in Connecticut. The law requires that all police departments in the state to have body and in-dash cameras by July 1st, 2022. The Plainville Police Department has had in-dash cameras for several years in the cars. Before Chief Catania passed away, he was in the process of putting together a recommendation for the purchase of body cameras for the department. Lieutenant Peterson and Lieutenant Mullins have continued this effort and are prepared to move forward with the purchase and implementation of body cameras for the police officers. They're suggesting 2 options. One is outright purchase of the system from WatchGuard. And WatchGuard is the same company that provides us with the in-dash car cameras. Or 2, enter a managed care plan. And I gave you a short spreadsheet on showing the differences in each plan. The managed care plan would save approximately $26,000 over a 5-year period. Lieutenant Peterson and Lieutenant Mullins will give a brief presentation of the WatchGuard system and the policy regarding the use of body cameras issued by the Police Officer Standards and Training Council, and to answer any questions from Town Council members. They are seeking Town Council input on which option to pursue. No action is being requested this evening. We hope if you could give us some direction on one or the other, we would bring back a specific proposal in writing, nail down the exact dollars, because some of the quote that was included in there, was kind of covering both bases and it was confusing to follow. So that's why, but the costs are, we anticipate the cost would be under purchase or managed care would be somewhat the same. We'd be able to provide you with a direct, what are we getting for under each one. But I know that Lieutenant Peterson and Lieutenant Mullins could probably, go a little bit further as far as describing, how the police body cameras would be used. There's going to be a lot of competition for police body cameras as we go over the next several months, so we're hoping to move relatively quickly on this. If the federal government issues some type of body camera mandated, it's going to take a lot longer to get them in. So we'd like to get ahead of the wave if possible. We have found the in-car dash cameras to be very helpful to us, and we to the town and to the police department. We feel it can only be enhanced by having body cameras. So with that in mind, I don't know if either one want to step up to the microphone and maybe add a few words, one or both, whatever works for you.
Good evening, Madam Chair, council members. We put a lot of work into it, and like I say, there's 2 ways we can go with purchasing the system, and if we do it in a timely manner, we do benefit from a 30% grant that the state's offering, but it is on a first come, first served basis. So basically, if we go with purchasing them, after we would receive a 30% grant, we'd be looking at a $79,000 upfront fee that would cover the first year. And after the total 5 years with storage and everything, we're looking at about $160,000 over 5 years. But we would need to come up with $194,000 over the 5 years. But again, that's $33,000 is what we would save in grants. If we go with the managed care over 5 years, we're looking at $134,000 again, as opposed to $160,000. So the savings is about $26,000 over 5 years. Money up front for the managed care system would be $43,000. We'd have to put that up front, but we would get a 30% grant back, which would be $13,000. So the total upfront cost for the first year would be $30,000, and then it would be 4 payments after that every year of $25,000. So all in all, I think where we're leaning is the managed care plan. After 3 years, we do get the body camera switched out with it. The life expectancy on them is about 5 years. The warranty, if we buy the year, is only for 3 years for the warranty on them. So, you know, the managed care, I think, in the short term and long term, is the most beneficial way to go. Anything to add, Nick? No. And you know, WatchGuard, we've had really good luck with the in-car video on the WatchGuard. So, and if we were to go to a different company, it would, to work correctly, we would have to go with the same type of camera, because otherwise you'd have to be wearing an audio for the in-dash camera and something, you know, your body camera. So it would just be too cumbersome to have two different, audio and video. And we did shop around a little bit. Axon is maybe, I wouldn't even consider them the leader of the industry, but they're up there. But I think WatchGuard is right there with them. They have a good reputation. They were purchased by Motorola, so they are, going to be around for some time to come. And it's, like I say, if we do go with it, there is a time essence, because if there is the whether he's trying to be a salesman or not, the representative for WatchGuard is saying if there is a federal mandate where they're going to require body cameras, then there's going to be a shortage. There's going to be a wait to get them. So, we do have a year coming up from this July. We have another year, but it'd be good to, like Mr. Lee said, get it moving sooner than later.
Well, and in fact, we feel that, body cameras is going to benefit the department. We would have done it even if we weren't mandated to do it, number one. The other thing is the police officers would each have their own camera, so they wouldn't be sharing cameras, which is a good thing, from our perspective. The second thing is they would be required under the policy that anytime they had an interaction with the public, that the camera would have to be on. So it wouldn't have to be on 24/7 or whenever they're on their shift. It's when they, whenever, as it was described to me by the lieutenants, when they go lights and siren with the cars, that automatically turns on the dash cam, and when they come to a scene, they leave the lights on, as I understand it, so that would also start up the body camera as well. So there wouldn't have to be, they have to manually turn it on themselves if there were lights and sirens. There would be opportunity for them to turn it on themselves, but the system would turn on automatically if it was any type of, rush to a particular scene or go to a particular scene. And I don't know if you want to expand on that at all, if I missed something or. No,
you put it pretty well. I mean, like you say, once, the way we have the in-car video cameras now, once you turn your lights on or your siren on, it automatically activates it, and it goes back 30 seconds. There's a 30-second drawback. So same thing with the body cameras. Once you activate your lights and siren, if you're going to an emergency call, the body camera automatically come on. But there'll be some training issues, again, where you're just getting out of the car, getting used to, okay, when I do come across a citizen who has a question or comes up to me, that I do activate it. We'll have to adopt the state policy if we apply for the grant, but we've looked at the state policy, it looks pretty good anyway, so we would have a similar policy, but I don't see any problems with, with the policy. But if, the cameras do, eventually we'll have them. It's just, like Robert said, there's been so many times where, and I think a lot of the officers really like it, because there's been a lot of times where, whether it's a false accusation of how you treated a citizen, or, something happened, it's just, it's a great tool to have. And again, most of the guys are for it, and something that's good.
So I have a quick question, actually two. So the first one is, you have the body cameras and you have the audio. Does that get stored at a server, Robert? Do we have to save all that information for future use?
Yeah, there's
yes?
freedom of information retention laws that we have to follow with doing this, and it is going to, create a lot more work. And Lieutenant Mullins has a little bit better grasp on the retention and all of that part of it.
Yeah, we would store it in the cloud. WatchGuard uses the cloud, and we would definitely want that option. With the managed services, it's included. If we bought it outright, we would have to pay for that separately. The cloud's secure. The retention period, we would set to whatever the state library demands we do. For example, we have to keep case files for 10 years. So I envision if we have body camera, footage from an investigation that we have to keep 10 years, then we'll probably keep that for 10 years. So, but yes, there is a lot of retention where, we're going to have to work through some of these kinks. For example, the WatchGuard comes with, what's it called? The redaction software.
Right.
So that's another good thing is it comes with the redaction software, so that if we go to a scene with a domestic violence scene where we have to redact certain witnesses or the victims,
Face.
yeah, we'll be able to do that.
Oh.
So.
Okay. Okay, and the second question I have is regarding, I suspect that probably there will be damage to some of these things at some point in time. So when you get the program up and running, do you have extras held in as a reserve, or how does it work in terms of replacing some of the ones that get damaged? Is that all part of this cost that we are going to be paying annually?
Yeah, correct. So if we buy the system outright, you have a 3-year warranty with it. So it's a pretty quick turnaround, sending it in and out. We have one spare that we requested, and probably 2 spares. But the managed care service, the warranty's with it. So even after the 3 years, it's still it's included. So if one breaks, they replace it. It's included in the managed care system.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
can you buy an extended warranty on these?
I'd imagine you can, yes.
And the next question I have is,
Could do a little more research on that.
if we were to commit tonight for, let's say, managed care, how long would it take them to produce these and get them into the department?
3 to 4 months.
That long?
Yeah.
And how many would you need? I would suggest you're going to need some extras, like computers. You have extra computers in the department. You'd have extra body cameras, so that they're not borrowing from each other.
Right, so when we put in for 41, that would give us 2 spare.
Just 2.
Yeah. But we couldn't put in for more, we could. What I have to check on also is just, I think it's, it probably varies from time to time, but if one does get damaged, I'd imagine they're overnighting us one, or it's going to be in here within a day or two. So what we could do then is each camera will be programmed to each officer, and that's the better route to go. But if we were, today an officer comes to work and his is busted, it hasn't come in yet, he can take an officer's that hasn't, has 2 days off or is off, and he can program it to himself. It's not something you want to do every day, but you can do it while your camera was out and you're waiting for the temporary one to come in.
So have you talked to any other departments that are already using body cams about some of the, pluses and minuses about day-to-day use and what we can expect in terms of, having to replace them or damage? Have you talked to any other towns that have done it already?
Yeah, I've talked to a couple. They're pretty durable. They're designed to be able to take a fall. It's probably size of smaller than a deck of cards, but a little thicker. And they're designed and they're built to be able to fall, hit the ground, come up. So everything that I've heard is that they are pretty durable and they wear well.
Mm-hmm.
Madam Chair.
Go right ahead.
Just a quick question, and this may be for anyone who can answer it, but with the in-car cameras, did we manage care purchase those, or did we do this?
No, yeah, they're into the. I think we have that in the capital grant. They're in the capital budget is where we
Okay.
have them now.
All right. So, I mean, I think the managed care sounds like the better option from my perspective.
One more question.
Go ahead.
If we put this off any later, you said 3 months to make enough of these body cams. If we put it off and it becomes a mandate, what would you think the time would be at that point?
Well, there's two things to think about is, so the grant just came out maybe about a month and a half ago. So I forget the exact dollar amount, but all the departments that apply for it, when the money runs out, it runs out. So it is 30%. And there's really no timetable to say how long that money will be there. But the thing we have to worry about is if something is passed federally, and now a lot of departments start, going to all these different camera companies, now it could be up to a year.
Would you agree that we should act on this as soon as possible, that your men should have a body cam?
Absolutely. Even take this whole mandate out of the picture. It's something where if one of our officers, God forbid, they have to use deadly force or they have to do something serious, and now it's his word against someone else's, and you want to be able to have that video say, hey, this is what happened. So. I would absolutely. Lieutenant Mullins and I have discussed that, and he's been a big advocate to get him going. He can talk a minute.
I think it's a little overdue. Our people want it. We're concerned that in this climate, one of our officers is going to use force, not necessarily even deadly force, but use force, and it's not going to be on camera, and that's going to be a problem.
I mean, you guys remember what happened over there at Jim's Deli, but we're thankful we had that on dashboard camera, because I think everyone who saw that took a big, deep breath, a sigh of relief. Where if you didn't have it, it's always in your mind, well, maybe the cop could have done a little bit better of a job, and I think there we did an excellent job, and having that on camera only helped us. It was great to see.
Madam Chair?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It does seem that the managed care would be the way to go, but, are there any downsides to it that we?
Not that we can tell, no. I mean, it's, like I say, so if we buy the camera, we own it, and like I say, the shelf life's for 5 years. With the managed care system, at 3 years, they're replacing all those cameras, so we're getting a new camera in 3 years.
Yeah,
and-
3 to 5 years of shelf life.
Yeah, so, yeah, it could be sooner than 3. So I really don't see any downfall
Downside
with
to it,
going,
okay.
only beneficial to go with the managed care system.
So when they use the expression hardware refresh at 3 years, it actually means replacement?
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, not just an upgrade or?
Yeah, and they do the hardware, like,
Yeah.
with some of the hardwares in the car, there could be, because there's some other things that we have in here where, the car, you have to sync the car to the camera and work like that. So there's hardware, other hardware that would be in.
Yeah, and of course, it also includes the installation, the training, and,
Yeah, this is,
Software
so
support.
it's all broken down for both purchasing the system and managed care. It includes them, shipping it, training us, and installation doesn't go, we have included in there. It's to, install everything into the cars, and it's all included in this.
and I noticed also the 24/7 support also.
Yes.
for that. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
That's key.
Anybody else have a comment?
Madam Chair,
Go right ahead.
I'm in favor of the managed care program, and I think it's important that everybody has a camera and we keep you people safe, you know?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
Lieutenant, I was on the New Britain PD in the 70s and 80s, and I got to tell you, if we had an opportunity to have a body cam, we would have had it back then. No question about it.
I can remember the first time we got, well, it was probably within a year we had the in-dash car cameras. I was involved in a minor accident, going to a serious accident, and a gentleman had pulled over, and as I'm going west on West Main Street, he just pulls out, hits me, and didn't do much damage, but he came into the police station, it was like 2-3 days later, insisting that I hit him. And then we were able to pull the camera up, and he's like, wow. He didn't even realize when he pulled out and hit me, then he went through the intersection, went through the red light. He said, we're not going to give you a ticket for the red light, but it's just,
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I know we were told we don't have to make a decision tonight, but I would,
Right.
if there's a consensus, I'm comfortable saying yes to the managed care and letting you guys move forward with whatever decision you need to make.
I agree with Councilman Wazir.
Everybody good with that?
Yes.
The managed care plan?
Do
Absolutely.
it tonight.
Okay, and again, I agree, and Lieutenant Mullins, you stated it perfectly. The atmosphere now in police work is very, it's always been a risky business, but more so now. And accountability is going to be paramount going forward. And I'm happy you're going forward with this, and I'm happy that you've done the research and you have confidence in the product. So I think it's a perfectly good idea, and thanks for coming to us with the information.
You're welcome.
We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any comments
Thank you for
before we
No.
close for the evening? Okay, thank you once again. Okay. Thanks, Joanne. Is that for us or them?
We anticipate at the next council meeting, we'll be bringing forth an additional appropriation to appropriate money into the capital fund. You remember, we did half of it. We want to do for the end of the fiscal year. We do not have monies for the 40-something thousand, so we'll probably just add that to the additional appropriation. We do have some additional revenues that have come in that was above, what we anticipated. So there's, we're going to end the year, in a positive fashion. But so I just want you to anticipate that we'll have a public hearing on that, and then we'll go forward. But we can put the purchase in motion with WatchGuard, get all the numbers finalized. I'll speak to them directly myself and just make sure that
Great.
everything's
Okay, good.
in
Thank
line.
you.
Okay. The next item I have is the Valley Water Aquarian Water Company acquisition. Valley Water recently notified the town that their parent company, which is the New England Service Company, has entered into what they call an agreement and plan of merger with Aquarian Water Company of Bridgeport. Subsequently, on April 21st, 2021, Valley Water sent a letter to the Public Utilities Regulatory Authority, PURA, requesting that their current application for a rate increase be temporarily suspended until such time as the merger is approved by the required regulatory agencies in Connecticut, Massachusetts, and New Hampshire. Valley Water is estimating that the approvals can take from 3 to 6 months. Valley Water is also proposing that they, quote, initiate discussions among the parties and report back to PURA if a settlement is achievable with regards to their proposed increase. I recently met with the president of Aquarian and Valley Water representatives in which they expressed their interest in negotiating a rate increase rather than having PURA make the decision. I told them that I would be willing to participate in such discussions. And those, under some information I received from PURA this morning, as far as their timeline is concerned, they're looking for some type of update from Valley Water and Aquarian by, I think it's like June 24th, how those discussions are going. So they would start relatively soon. And I'm not sure where they would end up in our discussions with the president of Aquarian. He indicated that even if something got negotiated, it probably wouldn't be implemented at the earliest until January 1st. So where we were talking about a decision by PURA, coming forth for July 1st, it's at least from what I've heard, delayed for 6 months at the very least. And They also indicated that they are moving forward with the construction of the water softening equipment. So this merger or acquisition will not delay that particular project. That's still moving forward. So if there's no questions, I'll move on to the next item, which is the Standard & Poor's rating. On April 22nd, S&P reaffirmed Plainville's bond rating of AA+. This is one notch lower than AAA rating, which is the highest rating a town can attain through S&P. They also stated that the financial outlook for Plainville is stable. In their report, S&P noted that, quote, reflects a strong growing residential and commercial base, unquote, and that, quote, lending further stability to the rating and the outlook are Plainville's very strong liquidity and stable revenue mix with a predominant revenue stream of property taxes with collections remaining strong. S&P does ratings across the United States. And, you know, not all states are as heavily reliant on the property tax as Connecticut is. Connecticut's one of the highest, you know, so that has a lot of negatives to it. But one of the positives is that the rating agencies see the property taxes being a very stable source of revenue. For example, those states that rely on, say, sales tax for a good portion of their local revenue, when the economy goes bad, sales tax revenues go down, and so they have issues with that. Income taxes, kind of the same way. When the unemployment rate goes up, you know, income taxes go down, and so but property taxes are, you know, stay fairly stable. That's why they mention a predominant revenue stream of property taxes. They also noted that Plainville has, quote, strong management with good financial policies and practices. They also noted that the town had strong budgetary performance, very strong budgetary flexibility, with an available fund balance in fiscal year 2020 of 18% of operating expenditures. They also noted that the town has very strong debt and contingent liability profile, with debt service carrying charges of 7.6% of expenditures, with 66.7% of debt scheduled to be retired in 10 years. They also recognize that the town council recently adopted a fund balance policy. In conclusion, S&P stated that Plainville has strong economy, strong management, strong budgetary performance, very strong budgetary flexibility, very strong liquidity, and very strong debt and contingent liability profile. As the town manager, I'm proud that Standard & Poor's has recognized the efforts of the town council and town staff to achieve a financial record that earned a bond rating of AA+. We'll put out something with regards to that, and people will be able to read the full report. I believe we even put that online already, but we'll try to, you know, get people to read further on that. I think it's a very good track record and a very good analysis of the town's financial position, which we should be proud of. So, next item I have is the all-day budget vote results for the fiscal year budget 2022. On April 27th, both the general government and Board of Education budgets were overwhelmingly approved by those who voted. The general government budget was approved by 81% of those who voted, which was 377 yes and 90 no. The Board of Education budget was approved by 77% of those who voted, with 359 yes and 106 no. The next step in the process for the town council is set the mill rate. The Appropriations and Finance Committees of the state legislature recently issued their recommended state budget for the next 2 fiscal years. Their recommendations restored the phase-in of the ECS formula. This phase-in would result in an additional $198,930 above what was originally anticipated when the council was looking at our budget several weeks ago. The increase in the ECS revenues would reduce the mill rate increase to 0.09 mils, or 0.25% increase in taxes based upon the earlier revenue discussions. This is $129,801 from a no tax increase. It is recommended that the town council consider setting the mill rate at the May 17th meeting. And in conversation with the Finance Director, Rob Buden, earlier today, Staff is going to come forward with some recommendations for you to consider with regards to how to make up that $129,000 amount that's left over to come in with a 0 mil increase, which would, if the council accepts the recommendation, would be the second year in a row that we did not have a tax increase. So our goal is to make a recommendation to the council. How to get there? We are still waiting for the federal government to issue their guidance with respect to perhaps the Relief Act that was passed by the federal government. They said you couldn't use it to reduce the budget, but there may be options under that may help us out as far as perhaps purchasing some items that were in the budget that are eligible. But we have some other ideas as well, and we'd like to bring them forward to you when you're ready to set the mill rate. If May 17th is if you feel that's a good time to do it. Next item I have is the FAA grant agreement. Several months ago, the FAA notified the town that the town would receive a $13,000 from the Airport Coronavirus Response Grant Program for Robertson Airport. To receive the grant, the town council must provide authority to execute the grant to the individual signing the grant. And there is an item under new business that would authorize the town manager to be the authorized representative for the town. I think we mentioned that a while ago that we received it. Now they're telling us we have to provide proof that we want it and that council has authorized somebody to represent the town in this particular grant. The grant probably cost about $13,000 in paper to send to us, but it's a very long grant, has a lot of assurances, a lot of paperwork, but we'll struggle through it to get the $13,000. The next item is the open burning ordinance discussion. The open burning ordinance was adopted on November 6, 2006. The purpose of the ordinance is to require that a permit be issued by the fire marshal or the open burning official before any person initiates open burning in any public or private area outside of a building. Fire Marshal Ron Divert is requesting that the town council consider amending section 219-9E, subsection 3, to comply with updated deep danger levels. Specifically, the current language allows for the revocation of an open burning permit in the case of extreme or high forest fire danger. Deep has added a third level, namely very high fire danger. Don't ask me why. I don't know. The fire marshal is requesting that section, which is 219-9E subsection 3, include very high as one of the levels now recognized by the state for measuring fire danger. The proposed language would read, an extreme, very high, or high forest fire danger exists. That would be one of the 3 reasons why you could revoke the permit. If the town council is agreeable to this suggestion, the next step would be to schedule a public hearing to solicit comments. I'm sure there'll be numerous comments from residents before considering action. I know you added this to your agenda this evening, and if so, we'll put that in motion so that we'll schedule that for consideration at the next council meeting. Next item I have is the auditor appointment. Each year, the town council is required to appoint the firm to conduct the annual town audit. For many years, the town council has appointed Bloom Shapiro of West Hartford to perform this work. Last December, Bloom Shapiro announced that they were joining the national professional services firm of Clifton, Larson, and Allen, LLP. The Bloom Shapiro team will continue to serve clients locally from their location in West Hartford. Town staff is recommending that the town council appoint Clifford, Larson, Allen, LLP to perform the fiscal year 21, which ends on June 30th, town audit, and there is an item under new business regarding this recommendation. Next item I have is COVID-19 update. A health director, regional health director, Shane Lockwood, is here this evening, patiently waiting, to give an update on the latest status of the COVID-19 restrictions and to discuss what may be expected going forward in the coming months. I know he mentioned a few items, thoughts with regards to pools, but there's other items as well, and I'd like that, with your permission, to ask him to come up and give a little update on that and to answer any questions you may have as well.
Good evening.
Hi, Shane.
Hi. So I just wanted to give an update on both the restrictions, everything that Robert mentioned, but just where we are right now with the pandemic. too. So I think in a lot of ways, the cases, we're seeing a decline. We had a third wave between late March and late April. Well, if you look at the history of pandemics, there's always a third wave that comes quickly after a second wave. Usually a spike in cases, but nothing like the effects of the second wave.
Shane, did you just push your mic on? I'm not sure.
Oh, sorry about that. So again, a third wave, which we're at the tail end of, and we saw increasing cases between late March and now, but it was nothing like the fall. To give you an example, in the fall, December, we roughly had 800 cases in the health district. April, we're probably around 200. So, which again is similar to where last October was as far as cases. What we saw last summer was a quick decline in cases between July, I think, for the entire Plainville, Southington, Middlefield district, we had maybe 15 cases for the entire month. So hopefully we're seeing that same type of decline. So as these declines happen, that's where we're seeing the easing of some of the restrictions, which in my opinion is a good thing. We're 14 months into this. I think people have learned the social distancing, the stay at home if you're sick, the hand washing. This year, if you look at the flu cases, they were almost non-existent. And a lot of it because people were doing things that we've been trying to say for years on how to prevent flu, and it showed how effective it was during flu season. So I think the easing of the restrictions are a good thing. What we're seeing is the easing of some restrictions happened on May 1st when it came to businesses, such as longer hours for restaurants, and all business restrictions go away on May 19th. We've been working closely with our businesses to get information out as information comes out from the state. We have roughly 800 licensed businesses that hold a permit through the health district. So as we get new information, we try and get it out to the businesses so that they're aware of it. We also have our sanitarians calling as big things happen. So this is very welcome news for everybody. Just as we're talking about restrictions, I want to thank the Plainville Police. I think over the past year, numerous calls to myself, police department come in that somebody's not complying. Between the two of us, we go out, look at it, educate the business owner, and hope that they could do things the right way from there on. We weren't looking to fine anybody. So I think our approach really worked out well this year. I guess one of the big questions is what's going to happen in the future. Do restrictions come back after the 19th if there's an increase in cases? What's going to be a recommendation? My prediction, and this is just a prediction, is we won't see any more restrictions in place. We can certainly expect some spikes here or there of cases, probably fall. Okay, I think summer will be good. But I think there are going to be more recommendations than they are like you must do this. It's going to be you should do this rather than you must. We'll continue to work with the towns. Myself and Robert probably talk 3-4 times a week on different calls. Courtney was here. We probably talk once a month as different things come out. Talk to the superintendent weekly. Talk to police department weekly. So we'll just adjust that going forward. I think one of the recommendations we'll see is going to be for outdoor events. Excuse me. Coming up for things like the hot air balloon, the pumpkin fest, DPH will probably come out with some type of recommendation of if you have this many people, this is what should be there, whether it's continued social distancing. I don't think they'll go masks, but they'll have some kind of precaution in place. So we're waiting for those to come out, and they expect those to come out before May 19th. And the last thing I want to mention was how great the town of Plainville handled this. We had a great working relationship with police, fire, town manager. Every department really helped during this, and it really put us in a good spot throughout the pandemic. But happy to answer any questions.
You feeling okay?
I am. Want to know what? I should have brought water with me.
It dries out wearing those things.
No, but I think overall, like I said, the town should be very proud. We haven't been through something like this in long, long time. And I think overall we weathered the storm in very good shape.
Anybody have any questions for Shane? You know, it has been a interesting experience, certainly for everybody. I think the groups that probably felt it the most are young children and the elderly, who were, you know, their behaviors had to change dramatically, and it was very hard, I think, emotionally for those, for everybody, of course, but particularly the elderly who couldn't see their families, for children who couldn't go to school and interact with their friends on a one-on-one. They couldn't participate in group activities. It was a big experience for a lot of people, and I certainly hope we don't have to do this again, but I would suspect we've learned a lot.
One thing I do want to mention, and I probably glazed over this, I think the schools did such an outstanding job. When you look at nationwide, where certain school systems are just now getting into school, where our schools locally have been in, except for missing some days due to staffing issues, our schools have been in place since the beginning of the school year. And I think when you look around the country, we're definitely an anomaly when it comes to that. I think there's a great team effort to keep the kids in school. So hopefully we see benefits of that years to come.
I agree. I think the staff from the town side and the superintendent's office, they did an amazing job keeping children in school. Those whose families chose not to have them go back were also supported.
Yeah.
So I think that's important that they addressed everybody. But the fact that Plainville went back in September full in was remarkable. And all things being said, they came out of it pretty well, I think. So, yeah, they're to be commended. And the town staff as well. I know that our HR director did an awful lot of outreach, contact tracing, being in contact with people. It's a lot of extra work and in uncharted territory that nobody's ever had to participate in before. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think everybody really stepped up and did a great job. And I don't know that Plainville's infection rate was any worse or better than any other town our size, but...
Yeah, I mean, I think even right now the vaccination rates are right where the other towns are. I think the cases are right where other towns are, actually better than... right now, the hardest hit area in the state is the central Naugatuck Valley area from Waterbury down to the valley. But our cases right now are in good shape. They're going down. I expect weeks to come to them just to keep going down and even more. Vaccine, the demand for it is slowing down. The supply has gone way up. So right now, if somebody really needs to get vaccinated and they're eligible, which is everybody over 16, it's not that hard to find a shot right now. It's walk-in clinics rather than appointments. So I think we're in a good spot with that. And yeah, I do have to commend Stacy from HR. I mean, I can't tell you the number of times at night we hear about a case and they immediately start the contact tracing. So she's done 24/7. So definitely deserves praise.
A lot of work, but we're grateful for you also, steering the ship, being the guy in charge and helping everybody do the right things when we were supposed to. And hopefully we will learn a lot from it. And I would hope not to have to do this ever again, but one can't be ever too sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, but it's total team effort.
I'm sure. All right. Thank you, Shane.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks again.
Next item I have, which is the last item I have for under my report, is the happenings.
Oh.
So I'm sure Matt has a long list of happenings, but he may cut it down a little bit. So.
Good evening, through you, Town Manager and Madam Chair. I'll start where I normally end, which is the Senior Center. The United Way of Central Connecticut will be honoring the Plainville Senior Center at the 19th Annual Community Builders Reception. The Plainville Senior Center is being recognized as a change maker in our community, particularly for their steadfast devotion to helping our seniors through the pandemic. So their efforts are paying off and folks are recognizing it. They're continuing to offer programs this month, including Caregiver Connections on Tuesday, May 11th. They're offering a strawberry crumb bar cooking class. This is, again, Zoom at home, that they've continued the cooking classes throughout the pandemic. There's a program on Katharine Hepburn from Hartford to Hollywood, Zoom at home, or available at the Senior Center. That'll be Wednesday, May 12th. There's several other programs that we'll make available, as well as their opening regular hours and scheduled activities. Additionally, happening in the community, a Get Healthy scavenger hunt is being sponsored by Plainville Youth Services. This is open to Plainville students May 6th through June 3rd. After a long winter indoors, it's time to get out and enjoy the beautiful Norton Park, as we were just talking about a little earlier with the pool. Here, they're offering fun facts about health and wellness that'll be spread throughout the park. Each week, there'll be 4 facts posted. They'll either be on sign poles, walls, other accessible areas throughout the park. If you take a photo of yourself next to it and you post it to the Plainville Youth Services Facebook page or email it to brownr@plainvilleschools.org, you'll be entered into a raffle with prizes of a $50 gift card to Old Navy or Kohl's. 2 winners each week. Folks are encouraged to get out and learn something new. The Plainville Chamber of Commerce is hosting a ribbon cutting for Good Vibes here in the downtown. That will be Wednesday, May 5th at 5 p.m. All are invited to attend. And the final item is a reminder of the second installment for sewer bills, due May 1, with a last day to pay without interest of June 1. Bills were not sent, as we've been reminding folks. An email blast is available if you'd like to subscribe, and that's on the Town of Plainville's website, plainvillect.com. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Robert or Matt with their reports tonight? They were long. We covered a lot of ground, Robert. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You as well, Matt. Okay. Moving on to public comments. During this time, we welcome the public to come to the podium. Please state your name and address. You'll be given one opportunity for 3 minutes. Does anybody wish to speak? Joanne? Okay, we have your mic all set up there.
Can I go to the podium?
I guess so. I suppose. Does it matter? No. Okay. You can. You just have to turn the mic on when you get there, Joanne.
Well, I thought it was on.
I think it's, no, hit the button.
Somebody snapped it off. Yeah, just hit the button. What do you do? Hit it here?
Yep. There you go.
Is it on?
You're on.
Joanne Edmond, 166 West Main Street. First of all, I want to say I'm back in the blues. Give them whatever they want to keep them safe, because there's so much coming down the turnpike, so to speak, that and the cost of it is chunk change compared to what the schools get. So I rest my case with that. They need whatever it takes to keep them safe. I'm not happy with what's going on in this country at all. With that regime that we have in Washington is just a bunch of pack of morons. Anyhow, with what's coming down the turnpike, this is not going to be a quiet town anymore. Between the trail, which I strongly oppose, as you well know, it's going to bring nothing but trouble and big expense. And they think that the park is going to be quiet. I doubt it. And then you talked about the pool tonight. I fear for the kids. Well, anyway, we've got the skyscraper over on Northwest Drive with, and now I've heard 2 sets of trucks that are going to be coming down in and out all day. I've heard 30 to 40, and then I heard 300 to 400 trucks a day. What is that? We are going to be inundated with traffic. And between the trail people coming in, trucks all over the place, coming off 177, the Cook Street area, Phoenix Soil, What else? Oh, the possibility of 3 apartment buildings in back of the firehouse with God only knows what, plus the clinic at the end of the firehouse property. So I'm really worried. This is not going to be a quiet town anymore. And this is going to affect not only the police, but it is going to affect the citizens of this town. So I'm worried, really worried. And then we don't know, and I didn't get my question answered last week, as to what do we do if we get a load, van load or loads of vans coming into town, or bus loads of illegals. What do we do? What are we going to do with them? Are we going to accept them? Or are we going to reject them and send them down to Delaware to Biden's property compound? I honestly, we've got to think of these things, because we have a crisis at the border. It's not only a crisis, it is chaos and a catastrophe because of these asinine morons in Washington. And I guess my time has, thank you for the extra.
Okay. Does anybody else wish to speak that has not? Mr. Frangos?
Lou Frangos, 10 Fairbanks Street. I'm going to be echoing Joanne. My thoughts on the cameras for the police I'll cut to the quick on this. I think the decision should be made by the officers in the police department, which is the best. Not the best cost, the best to protect their lives. And I think we all know why. Even one of the lieutenants mentioned in the presentation the term deadly force. And if there's any question on that, I'm going to be, because it means something to me. Deadly force to me is every time you take a walk through Norton Park, there's a little monument, Officer Holcomb. Right. And this is very important. Right. Also, may I also say this, it'll protect the accused, it'll protect the police officers, and something for the town council and town manager to consider. It will also protect the town. Because it seems nowadays, anytime somebody's guilty, the next thing you hear is suing. So it all falls into that package. That's enough on that. I have a real quick one for either town council or Mr. Lee. And again, this is just a question, it's not a challenge. The gentleman that came in, the Main Street group, well, if we decide to do, from my information, we decide to do something within the town, we call them in and they direct us in design, et cetera, et cetera.
Would you like to answer, Mr. Lee?
They would give us advice, yes.
Okay. Are they?
They wouldn't direct us. They'd give us advice, tell us what the options are, tell us what's been successful in other communities. But they would, they probably make suggestions. But
Okay, that's what I pretty much got out of it. But
yeah.
my question is: Are they paid? They're on call. Are they paid annually?
Paid
or
annually.
Are they?
Or
as needed?
The amount we budget is $1,000 a year.
A year.
$1,000 a year.
Oh, okay, that pretty much.
A relatively small amount of money, unless there was a particular item that we wanted to have in-depth discussions on, like tax incremental financing to help support the downtown. It's a fairly complicated process. That would be a negotiated price.
No, well, you answered it with if you're talking $1,000.
Yeah.
The only other question I do have, and being the need, if I
keep going, that's your 30-second
The only other
warning.
question I have, and just the nature of the beast, is that if we select this group, all right, and this is just my curiosity, say we want to design change somewhere in downtown Plainville, right? This group comes in and gives a presentation. We have no other, we don't go to any other group And the reason I'm bringing that up, being the old man that I am, all right, cost factors. In other words, I could sit here and I could say, you know, I could do this for the town of Plainville for $1,000. Mr. Ozorko example represents another group. He can walk in and say, I can do this for $500. So is there any type of negotiation that takes place, or whatever they say is gospel? This particular group, or any one singular group. That's my point. Not him, one singular group.
Well, I'm not sure I understand the question fully, but, you know, this is a nonprofit organization that, that advises, you know, 80 towns in the state of Connecticut about their downtowns. It's not a high-cost organization, and again, they're there for advice and suggestions. If you know, if there's a particular proposal that the council receives, they could review that and give some, you know, advice on, you know, whether it makes sense or not. You know, if somebody else wanted to come in and give the town some advice, we certainly would be willing to listen to what they have proposed, and if it isn't being duplicated already, you certainly would bring it to the council and ask them if they wanted to take advantage of this other opportunity as well.
Question answered. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
All set? Thank you. I don't see anybody else here tonight that would participate in public comment section, so I will close that portion of the meeting. And moving on, we have no old business. We have a few items under new business. So may I have a motion for item number 1, please?
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
motion to approve and authorize the town manager to execute the FAA's Airport Coronavirus Relief Grant Program grant agreement.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item number 2,
Madam Chair,
go ahead.
motion to appoint the firm of Clifton Larson Allen, formerly Bloom Shapiro, to conduct an audit for the town of Plainville's 2021 fiscal year.
Second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item number 3,
Madam Chair,
go ahead.
motion to establish a public hearing for Monday, May 17th, 2021, at 7 o'clock in the Municipal Center to hear public comment regarding an amendment to the open burning ordinance.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Item carries. Item number 4,
Madam Chair,
go ahead.
motion to approve the tax refunds as listed on the addendum.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Takes care of our new business. Do we have any other discussions of interest tonight?
Just a couple of comments. This has to do with the questions that were asked by Ms. Edmonds. Number 1 is that with regards to the AmeriCorps project, the numbers that you heard rumor up were completely wrong, completely overstated. The average number of vehicles, trucks that will be going in and out of that facility will average about 150 a day, which works out to about 1 every 10 minutes. Okay, not 300, not thousands, 100, about half of what your low number was. So the second item is with regards to bus loads of people that are going to be dropped off in front of the town hall. We don't make plans with regards to that because it simply isn't going to happen. So we don't make contingency plans for something that is not going to happen. So hopefully that answers your question. So that's all I had.
Okay, thank you. Joanne?
No, it will never happen.
We're done. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to bring up before we move into executive session? No? Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Item number 13.
Madam Chair?
May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, motion to move into executive session for a personnel matter.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you very much. We won't be coming out to take any action, so.